Craig Arcuri, Patricia Griffin,
Here.
Carl Hopkins,
Here.
Karen Kahn, Jim Wilson.
Here. Thank you. And I believe we do have some changes to the agenda proposed.
Yes, Commissioner Chair, I would like to pull items 8 and 9 to be presented at a future meeting.
Okay. We have the presentation on the maintenance division roles and responsibilities and the airline terminal solar photovoltaic projects presentations deferred till our next meeting. Thank you. Public comment. This period of time for any member of the public to comment. Do we have any speaker slips?
No speaker slips.
All right. Notices. The lease review subcommittee did meet Monday, May 12th at the Airport Administration Building, and there are minutes posted. And on Thursday, May 15th, the Airport Commission Secretary duly posted this agenda at the Airport Administration. Item 4, we have a recommendation to waive the reading and approve the minutes of the April 16th.
So move.
Second. Okay. All in favor of approving minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, thanks. Minutes approved. And consent calendar, do we have any changes to the consent calendar?
No changes.
All right.
Move for approval of the
Second.
consent calendar.
All right. So in favor of approving consent calendar?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent calendar approved. Thank you. Brings us to our liaison reports. We do have Councilmember Frank Hotchkiss. Welcome. Anything to share with us?
Yes. Drought phase 2, if I can put it that way, which is pretty serious. Remember, it's sort of surprising that only 3 years ago we had our last spill over Bradbury Dam, and yet all of a sudden we've been faced with this, and we really have been planning 6 years in advance, so it wasn't like we didn't know what was coming, but it came faster than normal. The last 3 years have been the driest on record. So what is the second drought phase called for? Extremely, well, you can't water down any or wash off any hard surfaces unless for health reasons. You're supposed to have a self-closing mechanism on the end of your hose. If you people all over town, at least in the public areas, have shut down all our fountains. With the only exception I know, and I probably shouldn't say this, is the county. And fountains at home are okay up to a certain area, 25 square feet. And folks have asked why that. Apparently, evaporation can be a real problem if you have to fill up your fountain. And I would say for the cities, from the city's point of view, it's also symbolic to remind people that, hey, you know, shower shorter. The other things quicker. Won't go into detail there. But definitely the next phase would be to actually ask people to stop watering their lawns completely. That would be pretty drastic, but we're not there yet. But I mention that only because people haven't been impressed that how serious this is or could be. We live in a great place, and you know, you can still get a glass of water at the restaurant or whatever, but now suddenly it's got to be sort of driven home, and it's a matter of education and asking people's cooperation. Part of the challenge is that we have been, as a city, very good at conserving water. We actually use about 20% less water than we did 10 or 15 years ago, and our population was greater. So to ask people to do 20% beyond that is really asking you to tighten your belt when your belt was already pretty tightened. But that's the situation. So that's the most, I think, the telling thing that I have to report from the City Council. Any questions? Great, thank you.
Well, thank you for that information. And I don't see a City of Goleta representative, so we'll move on to item 10, stepping past 8 and 9. We have a lease agreement with Magco Corporation doing business as Big Brand Tire. Do you have a presentation or?
A very short one.
Okay, thank you.
As you recall, we had an exclusive listing agreement with Radius Group Commercial Real Estate to assist us in leasing 2 properties at the airport. The property on the corner of Fairview and Hollister, 6010 Hollister, and also 521 Firestone, which is the Elephant Bar restaurant. I'm pleased to announce that we're pretty sure that we have a tenant for 6010 Hollister, and what you have before you today is the proposed lease agreement. It is Majo Corporation, but they go by Big Brand Tire, and the lease would incorporate the parking lot area of 29,000 some odd square feet, along with the building, and have a monthly rent of $7,533, which is about $1,500 a month more than we were getting prior to this lease. Big Brand Tire has been in Santa Barbara, been a company for 30 years, very well known. They have 2 locations in Santa Barbara currently, one on Milpas and Coda, and the other one here in Goleta, but it's kind of tucked away on Fairview. So they would like to lease this property. It is a long-term lease, 15 years with 3 5-year options. And they will be making improvements in the building both inside and out. And with that in mind, then there will be 5 months during the first 2 years of the lease in which they have rent credit for those improvements. The lease would also be adjusted, the rental would be adjusted annually between 2 and 5%, no less than 2, no more than 5% based on the CPI. And then every 5 years there would be a market rate analysis and adjustment if necessary to get it to market rate based on the FAA's requirements. Additionally, the fee to Radius for their assistance in this long-term agreement is the maximum amount that we agreed to pay them for this building, which is $51,036. So with that, I'd ask Airport Commission's recommendation to approve and send the lease to City Council.
And the lease sub-review committee did meet on
Yes.
this. Say your question.
Question, how is the payment to Radius phased? Is it monthly, quarterly, annually, or a big lump sum?
It's a lump sum, and it's paid upon execution of the lease. So once it goes to City Council and is adopted by ordinance, at that time we would issue a check to Radius. Carl?
That is regardless of whether or not the 3 5-year options are exercised?
The fee is only for the first 15 years.
Okay.
That's the maximum that they would be paid for this based on our agreement with them.
Okay.
If it had been a 5-year lease, we would have paid just based on the 5-year rental income, but for the 15-year term, it's the maximum. So one payment to them.
The other question I had is I noticed this was a 2%, 5%. I thought most of the leases I've seen in the past are 3 and 8.
That's correct. This was negotiated separately, and so it is an exception to our normal, but we will also be taking a look at our normal to see if we need to make adjustments just based on the fact that the CPI has not reached 3% in several years.
But then at every 5 years, if it were to get high or low, it would be adjusted anyways. Is that correct?
At that point, 5 years, based on FAA regulations, we have to do a market rate appraisal to make sure that we're in line with the value of the land. Yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'd just like to comment that it's nice to have somebody taking the space with great community visibility already, not establishing something new, kind of pulling them out, and a company that has bode well and done well. So love to see it.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I move approval.
Second?
Second.
All right. All in favor of approving the lease agreement with Magco?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Great. The lease agreement with Magco Corporation approved. Item 11, the fiscal year 2014 interim financial statement.
I thought it would be appropriate to give you an update on our financial situation in view of the loss of the American airline flights. And I'm pleased to say we're still in the black. And your report provides you detail by each line item of our business. We're under our operational revenues, not a great deal, 2.1%. And we are, of course, showing a decrease in commercial industrial property, and non-commercial aviation has a decrease. However, general aviation appears to be picking up both in fuel sales and in landing fees. The airline terminal is above our budget because of negotiations that we had with the airlines for rates and charges, which is a positive thing. And that will kind of narrow just a little bit in the next couple of months just because of the loss of revenue from American Eagle on part of their space. And then interest and other, that's where we get the reimbursement from TSA for our patrol officers. That agreement that was retroactive to October has finally been signed, and Tracy and Desi on the staff have put in all of our requests. I think she's current from September through March. Mm-hmm. So we are awaiting the money for that. So this will pick up. So overall, we're still at 80% or 83% of the year. We are a shy under, but really close to budget. Expenditures are below at 7%. Salaries and benefits, as you understand, we have vacancies in just about every division between administration and maintenance and patrol and operations. So that's kind of helped us garner some additional salary savings during the year. Materials and supplies are pretty much, they're also about a 3% variance under, which is good. Allocated cost and ARF, of course, are on target for their expenditures. Special projects, that's the line item where we track costs for the shuttle operation for long-term Lot 2, and that is below and will be at the end of the year. Debt service payments, those are done in June and December, so we have one coming up. But as you can see on the bottom line, we still have revenues to operating expenditures, $81,000 to the positive. So I'm really pleased about that. And I think it'll be helpful for us to look at this each month for the next quarter at least. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
The vacancies, is that a means of saving your budget, or is that because you're unable to hire?
It's not intentional that we don't fill the vacancies. We had a retirement in December and a recruitment going on, and we have applications. It's just the time. I think it takes longer to fill a vacancy than we give ourselves credit for. And, of course, the director's position has been vacant. Operations supervisor, we went through a whole recruitment, thought we had just the perfect candidate, and then that didn't work out because she had some family issues at the very end. And then the painter, the retiree. So, and a patrol officer didn't complete his training period successfully. So, as I said, just about every division has a vacancy.
All unintentional.
All unintentional. We're not.
Okay.
We're not holding them open.
That
That's
was
correct.
my question.
No.
Really.
Is it 3 vacancies in patrol? Is that, or is it just the?
Right now, there's one.
Oh, okay.
At one point, there was 3.
Oh, okay. Questions? Well, we know you always do an excellent job of keeping things balanced, and
Thank you.
I'm sure you will continue to do so.
I'm hoping to. Thank you.
And then we have item 12, the annual Part 139 inspection.
I'm going to have Tracy give you a very brief report. Tracy?
The inspection was postponed. The FAA called me up end of last week asking if we could possibly postpone it till July 7, so I told them that would be fine. So I'll report back at the meeting in July. I expect it to go well, but it was delayed. It did not happen this week.
All right. Well, thank you. And then lastly, the director's report.
On air service, two things. On operations for airline, we are down, but as you'll notice in your report, it's half of what we anticipated. So the other airlines are filling even those few seats that we have available. I've also been told that United Airlines will be changing the aircraft that they use to fly to Los Angeles. They're taking away the Embraer 120s and replacing with RJs. They will go from 7 flights a day to 6 flights a day, but those seats will certainly give us more capacity.
So how many more seats are in the RJ?
An Embraer has about 30 and an RJ has 50. So almost doubling.
Fantastic.
3/4. Yeah. So that's really helpful, and we will be marketing that too, just because we want the community to know there is access to Los Angeles.
And the RJs are jets, so it'll be jet service to LA.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. That's good. Air service, I've been working with the air service consultant to put together business cases and presentations that we'll be using at a couple of meetings with the airlines in the next 4 or 5 weeks. I'd also like to call your attention to the City Advisory Group's annual workshop, and you have the flyer attached to your agenda. That will be on May 28 at the Central Library, Faulkner Gallery, from 4:30 to 6 p.m. And it's a really good presentation. It's well worth going, and I certainly encourage you to attend if you can do so. Communications program, this past week we had several, and I guess this past several weeks we've had 2 really amazing events here at the airport, and the most recent one was Wings of Freedom, and the old jets came in and were very well received. It's always fun to have those guys visit the airport. Under the ARF study, the consultant is making the first draft of the written report, and we anticipate having that first draft next month. And that concludes my director's report, unless there's other items you'd like me to visit about.
Questions on the report?
Essentially, about half of our forecast loss has been made up by existing airlines, and that United is planning on a substantial capacity increase, which may offset some of the remainder.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we're in good shape.
Keep your fingers crossed.
Okay. Well, if there are no further questions, having come to the end of our agenda, we are adjourned. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.